In today's increasingly harsh economic environment, young people in China are facing a bitter reality. Low wages, soaring living costs in major cities, and shrinking job opportunities. With a monthly income of just 3,000 to 4,000 RMB, many can barely cover rent, food, and transportation, let alone save or afford basic personal needs. They don't dare to fall in love, get sick, or spend on themselves. As youth unemployment surges, even landing a stable job has become a luxury, not to mention the hope of personal growth. This sense of financial insecurity, combined with rising social pressure, leaves many young people feeling hopeless, trapped, and barely surviving in a city that seems to have no place for them. Recently, a young Chinese girl opened up about the harsh reality of surviving on just 4,000 RMB a month. Her words struck a deep chord with mainland netizens, and the video quickly went viral across Chinese social media. A short clip posted by Douyin blogger Volcano Sister on November 21, 2024, was recently amplified by a major Weibo influencer, igniting a fiery wave of online debate. In the video, Volcano Sister hit back at those who mocked her. A lot of people saw my video about earning 4,000 RMB a month and said I might as well just stay home and sleep. But let me ask you, do you think earning 4,000 RMB is easy? She broke it down with cold, hard math. If you work 23 days a month, that's just 174 RMB a day. If you're a delivery worker, you're up earlier than the chickens and asleep later than the dogs. If you work at a supermarket as a cashier, you stand for 10 hours straight to earn 120 RMB. To earn 4,000 RMB, you'd have to work 34 days nonstop. She continued, selling clothes, base salary is 1,500 RMB, commission just 5%. You'd need to sell 50,000 RMB worth of clothes a month to reach 4,000 RMB. And after paying off your Huawei and credit card debt, that money might barely cover your food. You're scraping by, patching holes, maybe even going into the red. Then she delivered the line that broke many hearts. If you're a girl, you can't afford skincare, can't afford makeup, can't even afford to dress nicely. If you're a guy, you don't even dare fall in love. This isn't just my life. It's the reality for most people now. Thousands flooded the comments in agreement. Honestly, 4,000 RMB is the norm now. Most people are in the same boat. I only make 3,500. Some make even less. She told me to just go home and sleep if I only make 4,000 RMB a month. Then where am I supposed to bury my 1,500 RMB salary? The truth is, I grind 28 days a month for just 3,500 RMB. No social insurance, no housing fund, nothing. Xi'an renminbi? That's already a luxury. I only make 2,800, sometimes just 2,000 working as a waiter. With 4,000 RMB, I honestly don't even dare to fall in love. A simple date, dinner, milk tea, a movie, maybe a small gift, costs 700 to 800 RMB. And that's not counting holidays. As a man, you can't be too stingy, but I simply can't afford it. In Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, or Shenzhen, 4,000 RMB won't even get you a public toilet, let alone a meal. Only in some small county towns or fourth-tier cities can 4,000 RMB barely support a basic life. So here's the core issue. People's incomes and their daily expenses are completely out of sync. In simple terms, we spend more than we earn. Some netizens took it further, blaming the system itself for this growing crisis. They pointed to the CCP's entrenched privileges. This is a systemic problem. Many retired officials collect over 10,000 RMB a month, while young workers can't even survive.
In a quiet corner of Chengdu, a 37-year-old woman, once cheerful in her social media videos, now speaks through tears. Drowning in debt totaling 3.8 million yuan, she's been blacklisted by the People's Bank of China. Every credit card and microloan she has is overdue. I try to look happy, she says, her voice cracking. But money can crush a middle-aged woman. Her breaking point came on her son's third birthday. He scoured the internet for the cheapest cake but couldn't afford even a 44 yuan one. Her bank account held just over 20 yuan. "It's not fair," she wept. "Why is life so hard? I'm 37 and I can't even buy my son a cake." Chengdu, once a vibrant metropolis in China, has become a city haunted by personal tragedies, where the dream of home ownership has crumbled under the weight of debt and unemployment. Ordinary citizens, from single mothers to fresh graduates, are trapped in a financial spiral, suffocated by mortgage loans, credit card debt, and consumer lending. As the real estate market collapses, many have landed on credit blacklists, lost their homes, and seen their futures vanish. A troubling trend has emerged: the rise of the rat people, young individuals withdrawing from society, living in isolation out of despair. The stories are harrowing. One mother couldn't afford a birthday cake for her child. A student ended his life over debt. Together, they expose the brutal toll of a shrinking economy, where hope is replaced by helplessness and pain.
我操，80后的悲哀呀！他妈的，房东是坐实了啊！162万的买的房子，3年时间亏他妈60万，贷款108万，利息要还他妈的103万。操！
Chengdu's property market has become a graveyard for dreams. A buyer in Hangzhou who purchased a 2.2 million yuan apartment in 2019 with a 690,000 yuan down payment and a 1.3 million yuan mortgage now finds his home worth just 1.4 million, down 600 yuan. After 5 years of payments totaling 450 yuan, 80% of which went to interest, only 80 yuan was shaved off the principal. If I sell it now, I'll have 200 yuan left and lose all my savings, he said bitterly. Another man bought a home for 2.63 million yuan in 2020, with an 830 yuan down payment. Today, he's forced to list it at 1.5 million yuan with no interest. In 4 years, I've lost 1.6 million yuan, he said, feeling like someone who tried to climb up but was instead swallowed whole by the city. Economic pressure has rippled through society, forcing people into extreme frugality. My friend used to drink Starbucks weekly. Now it's 9.9 yuan instant coffee, one person shared. Dining out has dropped from 5 times a week to once. Clothes once bought from Zara and Jack & Jones have been reduced to 1 outfit per year. Travel and entertainment have also been cut. From annual vacations to occasional weekend drives nearby. Retail and food service sectors are taking heavy hits. Hainan's duty-free store revenue dropped 30% in 2024, and 80–90% of restaurants are unprofitable, with sub-50 yuan meals now the norm. Customers have no money. Who's going to spend big? One restaurant owner asked, as they too struggle to survive. Amid this despair are the rat people, young individuals who isolate themselves, staying up at night and avoiding human contact. I do side hustles in self-media, said one person buried under 5.6 million yuan of debt. But I don't know how long I can hold on. The stock market crash, where 4,736 companies saw their shares fall with an average drop of 3.71%, has deepened financial fears. I can't even make it through the new year, one investor groaned, as everything, homes, stocks, consumer goods, seems to be collapsing. With mortgage defaults and consumer debt surging, the haunting question remains: does China still have a future? In Chengdu's growing shadows, the hope of spring feels like a distant consolation as its people struggle with debt, joblessness, and a society coming apart at the seams. On April 15, 2025, a furniture factory owner in Zhongshan, Guangdong, shared a devastating video on social media. After 2 decades of running his business, mounting debts and dwindling orders had driven his company into bankruptcy. With a heavy heart, he paid his workers final salaries and closed the factory gates forever. This makes the COVID crisis look like a minor setback, he said, his voice breaking with anguish. The comment section was flooded with similar tales of woe. A 20-year industry veteran wrote, "I'm left with just a small showroom now, scraping by on repairs. The market's collapsing. Get out while you can." Another, a fabric supplier from Zhejiang, lamented, "My main client shut down in May. June feels like a death spiral and I'm completely lost. It's tougher every year." A third commenter remarked, "I warned everyone. Since May, businesses are barely surviving. Only a handful will endure. It's ruthless." In 2025, China languishes under a suffocating economic crisis, its once vibrant industrial heartlands reduced to hollow shells as factories shudder and livelihoods crumble. The weight of high U.S. tariffs, reaching a staggering 245% on Chinese goods, has choked exports, while internal pressures, like rising costs and shifting supply chains, deepen the malaise. From the desolate streets of Dongguan and Kunshan to the anxious whispers of jobless workers and disillusioned youth, a pervasive sense of despair paints a grim portrait of a nation grappling with systemic decay. The stories of ordinary citizens, vendors, drivers, students, and salespeople, weave a tapestry of struggle, where survival demands resilience against a backdrop of collapsing industries, social inequity, and fading hope. The manufacturing giants of Dongguan and Kunshan, once the pulsating core of the world's factory, now stand as ghostly relics of their former glory. In Dongguan, the adage, "When Dongguan's traffic jams, the world runs out of goods," feels like a distant memory. A plastic raw materials supplier describes a cliff-like plunge in orders, with overcapacity forcing 10 workers to scramble for opportunities once shared by 2 or 3. Clients, even those thriving, delay payments for over a year, leaving suppliers powerless in a vicious market. Kunshan, which produce 70% of global laptops, fares no better. Taiwanese firms, battered by soaring rents, wages, and environmental compliance costs, flee to Vietnam and Thailand. A labor shortage grips the city. Generation Z shuns the grueling factory life of 24/7 overtime, while small businesses buckle under emissions mandates. Kunshan's empty, everyone's gone, a real estate blogger laments, a sentiment echoed in nearby Changshu, where barbers note community efforts to retain dwindling workers. The final blow comes from Apple's 2025 announcement. Most iPhones for the US will be made in India, and Macs and iPads in Vietnam, severing the lifeline of these industrial hubs. Social inequality festers beneath these economic wounds, breeding resentment and shattering trust. The elite, cloaked in invisibility, wield influence far beyond public view. The real richest won't let you see them, a netizen observes, noting that even Jack Ma pales beside hidden dynasties whose connections secure elite opportunities. In education, this disparity is glaring. A well-connected individual leaps from a mediocre overseas degree to a prestigious medical post in years, bypassing the decade-long grind others endure. Meanwhile, a university freshman, raised on promises of a carefree campus life, finds only relentless competition. Her top-tier university demands not just academic prowess but social finesse, clubs, contests, internships that torment her social anxiety. An internship, yielding a meager 800 yuan for a month's toil, offers only workplace politics, not skills. Her faith in the system shattered, she sleeps 17 hours a day to escape, a symbol of a generation betrayed by broken dreams. Technological ambition, once a beacon of progress, now underscores the growing chasm between aspiration and reality. At the 2025 Shanghai Auto Show, Xpeng and Hongqi unveil flying cars, heralding the low-altitude economy for the elite. Yet the domestic market shrinks as consumers battered by economic contraction tighten their belts. Malls tell a dire story. An 80% closure rate leaves prime storefronts vacant, with a hot pot restaurant's rare transfer a fleeting success. The shoe sector's April sales spike raises hopes, but wholesalers fear a last gasp before collapse, torn between stocking up and risking unsold goods. Online giants like Taobao and Pinduoduo worsen the carnage, their predatory pricing crushing physical stores and factories. They burn cash for scale, not success, a netizen scoffs, blaming fake transaction booms for the chaos engulfing sellers. Last year's closure of 400,000 restaurants, 120 zero snack shops, 80 zero milk tea stores, and 200 zero hot pots plays bare the consumer spending collapse. Amid this bleak landscape, voices of resilience emerge, though tinged with fatalism. The Dongguan supplier urges survival. Even 100 yuan a day is fine. Staying alive is everything. Others counsel humility, warning against chasing elite lifestyles or reckless spending. Don't start a business. Don't quit lightly, they advise, noting that many bosses fare worse than workers. Yet, the U.S.-China trade war's tariffs expose China's vulnerabilities, amplifying domestic woes. The Chinese Communist Party frames these as external attacks, but public frustration simmers, fueled by factory closures, job losses, and shattered aspirations. A furniture factory's collapse in Guangdong alongside struggling Wuhan firms underscores the real estate-driven decline in building materials, with calls to cut losses before hopes turn to ruin. As China stumbles through 2025, its people navigate a fractured economy and a system rigged against them. The vendors default, the students despair, the driver's eroded earnings, and the salesperson's resignation converge in a shared struggle. Survival in a nation where opportunity dwindles and trust fades. Without bold reforms, economic stagnation and social unrest loom, leaving millions to cling to fragile hopes in a storm of systemic failure. U.S. tariffs devastate Chinese tilapia industry, exposing economic vulnerabilities. The United States has imposed a 170% tariff on Chinese tilapia exports, valued at approximately $425 million, 0 cents, effectively closing one of the largest markets for this popular seafood. This punitive measure, part of an intensifying trade war, has crippled China's tilapia industry, particularly in Maoming, the nation's tilapia capital. The tariffs have made Chinese tilapia uncompetitive, slashing prices and threatening the livelihoods of thousands. In Maoming, a subtropical city in southern China, tilapia production accounts for 1/9 of the country's output, with 100,000 tons exported annually, mainly to the U.S. and Canada. This sustains the fish consumption of roughly 25 million Americans, where tilapia ranks as the fourth most popular seafood. Maoming's warm climate and abundant water resources support an industry chain encompassing hatcheries, feed production, large-scale farming, and processing. 16 factories in the city supply fillets to American supermarkets, supporting tens of thousands of families and driving rural development. However, the tariffs have caused prices to plummet. Tilapia in sheds now fetch just 7 cents per pound, down from 80 cents last year, with open pond fish selling for as low as 60 cents. Factories are buying at 58 cents, barely covering costs, leaving farmers facing losses. Hatcheries report no orders for fry, feed manufacturers see declining demand, and processing plants stand idle. Tongwei Group, a major aquaculture firm, estimates that 10% of tilapia farmers nationwide could lose their jobs this month. The trade war, marked by U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods rising to 245% and China's retaliatory 125% tariffs on U.S. products, has disrupted bilateral trade. In Maoming, the peak stocking season from March to May saw sales drop by over half, with workers calling it the toughest year yet. The ripple effects extend beyond farmers to processors, logistics workers, and entire communities. As American consumers enjoy tilapia, often unaware of its origins, Maoming's industry teeters on collapse, threatening a key food supply chain and the economic stability of a region long reliant on the U.S. market. Broader economic fallout and structural flaws. Maoming's crisis reflects deeper trade frictions and a critical flaw: over-reliance on the U.S. market. The local tilapia industry was tailored to American preferences, producing boneless, skinless fillets with specific sizes, packaging, and certifications like BAP and ASC. This model fueled growth but left the industry vulnerable to tariff disruptions. Efforts to pivot to China's domestic market face hurdles. Urban households with 70% of assets tied to real estate lack disposable income to absorb excess production. Decades of housing reforms have drained generational wealth, leaving families in debt and unable to boost consumption. Tilapia also struggles domestically, competing with cheaper freshwater fish and facing consumer preferences for whole fish over fillets. The broader U.S.-China trade war exacerbates the crisis. U.S. tariffs target Chinese agricultural products like shrimp, crabs, mushrooms, nuts, tea, and herbs, pricing them out of American markets. Redirecting exports to the EU, Africa, or the Middle East requires costly overhauls of production, marketing, and regulatory compliance. Changes unlikely to offset the loss of China's economy faces additional strain from a deflationary cycle, declining corporate profits, weak consumer spending, a crumbling real estate sector, local government debt, and rising unemployment. Foreign investment is drying up, and a declining birth rate adds to the gloom. Economists point to a lack of confidence rooted in the Chinese Communist Party's CCP authoritarian system, which prioritizes control over economic vitality. Without rule of law or protections for personal wealth, businesses and individuals lack faith in the future. Analysts describe China's economy as predatory, enriching the state while exploiting citizens, with resources concentrated in the CCP's hands. CCP media frames U.S. tariffs as an attack on China, deflecting blame from the party's policies. A quiet revolt amid economic hardship. The trade war has deepened economic hardships for ordinary Chinese citizens, despite official claims of GDP growth. Businesses struggle, real estate stagnates, and youth unemployment soars, forcing cautious spending. Export-driven regions like Shanghai, Guangdong, and Jiangsu face pessimism, with foreign trade business owners expressing frustration. Analysts warn of bankruptcies among small and medium-sized enterprises, layoffs, salary cuts, and rising living costs, further eroding consumer confidence. The trade war exposes systemic issues. China's economic growth, fueled by Western trade concessions post-2000, transformed it into the world's factory, but the benefits have been uneven. A 2023 World Bank report noted many Chinese live below the international poverty line, with monthly incomes as low as 400 yuan. The wealthiest 10% controls 68% of the nation's wealth, per the 2024 World Inequality Database. Systemic corruption, coupled with inflated housing, education, and healthcare costs, has drained savings. Unreliable financial schemes like P2P lending have collapsed, leaving small investors vulnerable. The CCP's promises of common prosperity have rung hollow. Policies like dual circulation fueled speculative real estate booms, depleting family savings. Restricted access to accurate information due to CCP control over media and data exacerbates poverty. The stock market, dominated by insiders, often leaves small investors with losses, eroding trust. As tariffs unravel export-driven growth, public awareness grows, with citizens questioning whether policies serve the people or prop up the regime. Roots of the trade war. The U.S.-China trade war stems from China's unfair trade practices, including intellectual property theft, forced technology transfers, and state-driven subsidies. The Made in China 2025 initiative, criticized by the EU Chamber of Commerce, uses subsidies and discriminatory procurement to favor domestic firms, stifling foreign investment. State-backed companies like Huawei dominate markets through predatory pricing, enabled by billions in subsidies. A 2018 U.S. report documented China's theft of American technologies, costing U.S. firms hundreds of billions annually. Weak enforcement and CCP influence in global bodies like the WTO leave foreign companies with little recourse. Economist Peter Navarro detailed these issues in his 2011 book, Death by China, highlighting China's aggressive export tactics, currency manipulation, and environmental neglect. The Trump administration's tariffs aim to counter these practices, seeking to dismantle unfair trade systems and promote global competition. The CCP deflects blame, portraying the U.S. as the aggressor, but the trade war reflects a push to hold China accountable for decades of rule-breaking. A nation in crisis. China's economic woes are compounded by a wave of sudden deaths and viral outbreaks in 2025, including COVID-19, influenza, and unspecified viruses. Social media amplifies public fear, with reports of frequent deaths, particularly among those in their 30s and 40s from causes like heart attacks and strokes. Bloggers warn of overwhelmed crematoriums and deserted villages, questioning official population figures and alleging a CCP while unverified. These claims fuel distrust in official narratives. The tilapia crisis in Maoming, The broader trade war and China's economic struggles highlight the human cost of global trade disputes and systemic flaws. As industries falter and citizens face hardship, the CCP's grip on power remains a central obstacle to reform. A growing number of Chinese citizens are questioning the regime, with over 445 million publicly withdrawing from the CCP since 2004, seeking a future defined by freedom and prosperity. Without transparency and reform, China's path to sustainable growth remains uncertain.